Hey everyone, welcome back to On Point. This episode of the podcast, Mitch and I are driving back home from the Cascadian Bowmen shoot in Eugene and basically reviewing how the shoot went for both of us, things that we may need to work on coming fresh from out of the shoot, areas that we maybe were weak areas or areas that we definitely need to focus on. And that's what these shoots are for, is to work on your areas, find your areas that are weak, and just really kind of expose those weaknesses in your shooting that you can improve before the season. We also talk about some other stuff and just a conversation between two buddies and probably not a lot of learning things in this one, but there's definitely, you can hear how we shot, how we all did, and the areas that we need to focus on coming out of the shoot. So as always, I appreciate everybody listening to the podcast, and I'll see you at the end. Bye. Perfect. So we are officially on now.
Good.
Good. And Mitch is driving down I-5. I'm riding shotgun. Coming back from the Cascadian Bowmen.
Yep.
A.K.A. Poodle Creek. A.K.A. kicking Anthony's ass.
Well, one of us did.
He's not here to defend himself, so I'm going to go hard in the paint on this one. But, no, it was a great day, man. I mean, sun's out, a little cold this morning. There wasn't any rain. We had an awesome group of guys in Shelby that we were shooting with, and it was just a fun time. It was.
I haven't been to one in a long time, but it was what I needed. I really enjoy these, and I'm glad the weather agreed with us, and just so much fun. There's a lot worse things you could do on a weekend.
Oh, for sure. This is all just part of staying, on top of your gear, on top of your skills, and like you said, you like shooting 3D. And from the last podcast that we did, you're a busy guy, and this is kind of how you stay on top of your skill set, you think, or what?
It's just a different thing completely than going to the range and shooting at a, even a nice range. It's just walking back and forth. There's not a lot of challenge. You're not presented with different things each time. If you're shooting a shoot that's different from, the rest of them, or they change a little bit every year. Sometimes the courses are pretty similar, but you don't really know what you're getting into until you're standing there looking at it. And the more creative the shoot is, the better, I think.
Yeah.
More fun. Some of them are really long, hard shots. Some of them are between trees and, uphill, downhill. It's a lot of walking. You get out there, you get your blood flowing. It's just nice. It's nothing wrong with going out there and getting some exercise. And,
were you happy with the way that you shot today?
Overall, yeah. I expected a lot worse for the amount of practice I've been doing lately, which hasn't been much. And shooting in the walk-in, and I don't know, I just got in the groove in a second half shooter.
Yeah, you did. You found that two-fletched arrow.
Yeah, you always struggle with your equipment for a little bit, and I don't know. You definitely some people fall apart in the second half. It takes me a whole first half to get that out of the way, and then I start settling in. I think it's because the prospect of winning is gone after I choke real hard on the first couple targets. But
Anthony blanked the first target.
Yeah, that was a good way to start it.
I've never seen that before. And it sucks is that he did hit the target, but his arrow skipped off of the belly and went into the ground. So it went all the way through, just a tiny chunk of foam, but it didn't hold the arrow.
The zeros hurt.
Zeros
they add up.
Definitely don't add to your score.
Don't add up, rather.
Easy to do the math on them.
Yeah, yeah, it really makes adding your totals up. I didn't have a single zero, and I can't believe that happened.
You didn't have a zero all day?
No, not one.
I think out of all six of us, me and you were the only ones that didn't have zeros, and I, on the second to last target, dude, almost blanked it. I almost blanked it.
That turkey gave me a 5 after I was on a string of 12s. That was I definitely quit caring as much. I just I'll make the best shot I can make, and then the pressure was gone. I knew I was way ahead of Shelby. I think that's when I really started taking off. Yeah, because I knew I had her beat, and I wasn't really competing anymore.
I think, did you say it in the last podcast that you're tired of losing to Shelby?
Yeah.
You've never beat her?
Yeah, I think so.
And then today, I felt bad for her because she's been really sick, and she put a new sight on her bow, and then we're all at the range shooting, and she didn't get it like a couple days or a week ago or something like that. She didn't have time to finish sighting in her whole bow and everything, long story short. So there were some longer bombs where she just didn't know where to aim, and really messed her up. But there's a couple times where she used the wrong pin or the wrong gap or whatever. But for like the first half, I think she was spanking all of us. Like, I know for the first 10 targets, she was definitely probably in the lead.
Yeah, there's 3 of you that were neck and neck on the first probably 18 targets.
Yeah, she was killing it. But there was a lot of short targets on the front end.
Yeah.
Of the course that we started. But like I said, she was killing it in the beginning. And then, you had Jeremy and Mike. And Jeremy shot the best he's ever shot today. Mike shot pretty darn good. You shot good for being out of practice.
Yeah, I impressed myself with the it wasn't the problem today, but a lot of times going to these 3D shoots all summer, putting your stuff to the test all summer long, it gives you a real chance to discover an issue that you would maybe otherwise find in a situation where you're pretty far from it, if not pulling back on a bull or a deer while you're on the trip, and you have to go like we've had to do in the past, really far out of the way and double back, 4 hours or something to get a. You needed new arrows or something in the past. It's bit us in the butt, but the more you're out there, and I've had I had a rest take a crap on me at a 3D shoot. And I completely lost a screw that went with it, and was able to scalp one from somewhere else. But it's stuff like that. That happens. You're done. You're done till you go get it fixed, or you go find a place where you can buy a new. Unless you bring, which isn't a bad idea either. That's another thing for preparation. You should almost bring a backup everything. In the past, you brought backup bows, whole entire setups.
Yeah, I'd have 2 setups every year,
just in case. Just in case.
I still do. I got that Outlaw, which I don't plan on shooting, but I mean.
Now, and if you're talking about time to practice, maybe don't have 2 setups, because 2 bows don't shoot the same unless they're the same bow with the same setup. So maybe you should shoot both of them pretty regularly. But, you might have to limit yourself if you end up on your backup bow. Maybe your range is down to, 35, 40 yards instead of 60 or 70, depending on the shooter. Yeah. But you're not down and out. You're not done. You're not, camp cook.
That's a good way to put it. And so you were shooting your Matthews. What's your setup? Your Matthews Chill R?
Yeah, Monster Chill R.
Which, if you're looking for a used bow, man, those hold their value fairly well. Those Matthews Chill Rs.
Yeah, they seem to be
good bow.
I know. I bought in 2 now, and the first one was just as expensive as the second, or the other way around. It's a good deal on it. Is probably $600 bare. I mean, I don't know. I think I got mine a little cheaper than that.
I'd say probably 500 or 450 bare, 500 bare.
Yeah, and they only made them a couple of years. I think 11 to 14 or something like that, or 11 to 15.
Well, you had the Z or the Great Pattern risers. They had like the Matthews Z7, Z7 Extreme. You had all these other versions of them. The Chill R, Chill SDX for there's just a bunch of them. But my favorite is by far the Chill R. Yeah. Pretty darn good bow, good speeds, with a good stabilizer. You can really tame that hand shock, accurate, pretty quiet, just a great bow.
Yeah, and I've shot quite a few. I ended up with I got rid of that one, and I had ambitions of buying a brand new one, and it wasn't, the timing was. So I sold one right at the end of season. I think, right before next season, I'll buy a brand new one. And as it got closer and closer, and I just was busier and busier, and I was like, I don't know. Yeah. Here I only have 2-3 weeks to really get prepared. And if I buy a brand new bow, I ended up buying a cheaper Hoyt Power Max, and I never could get.
There goes Mike and Jeremy right there, passing us. He's a cop. He can drive faster than everybody. If he gets pulled over, it's no penalty. Just follow him.
That's a good point. No, I never could achieve the level of accuracy with that mid-range price point bow. Chills when they came out were kind of up there. They weren't top. I wouldn't say what top of the line is. I have no authority to say what's better than what, but for price-wise, they were towards the top of the market. brand new.
You think you shoot the Chill R better than that Power Max you bought?
Absolutely.
Yeah, me too.
Even the first one I had, I had that Chill R, and we'd go to 3D shoots, and my scores were great, and I could always shoot pretty good. I could only shoot pretty good with the Power Max, but I could shoot excellent with the better bow, and it was older, but it was definitely a quality bow, and I saw a couple today at the range, that or at the 3D shoot. People keep using them. They're tried and true. They set them up for target shooting and target shooting only. It seems like they're a bow that's good for that. Not every hunting bow is. I think that's one of them that is. They're consistent and they're reliable. And I don't see myself buying another bow until technology comes along a little bit, or maybe I just feel like it. I don't know. But it's not in the plan. So
Mike just texted me. He's like, "You guys look like a pilot and a co-pilot because we got the headsets on. We're going down the road." But yeah, no, that Chill R, man, that's a great bow. And I bought the Z7 Extreme one, or traded it for worst trade I ever did. Got a Z7 Extreme, and I was thinking, the Creed Z7s around there, I really liked. Went back and shot it, and I hated it. But I think the Chill R was one of the best bows they've ever come out with for me, period. Like, I just really like that bow. It shoots great. If I could have that as my backup bow, I would absolutely have that as my backup bow. But
I'm a fanboy for sure. I'm not.
Oh yeah.
It's too bad they don't make new ones anymore, or they got similar things. But this is just a good bow, and I like it, and I don't see a reason to. If it's not broke, don't fix it, kind of thing.
No, and for as much as you shoot, it's not a big deal.
No, it's gonna. A brand new bow, it would probably. The capability of that bow would exceed my practice. I might be able to buy a brand new bow and just, if I put the time in, pinwheel 12s all whole 3D shoot, but I could probably do that with this bow. It just maybe be a little, I don't know. This bow's not going to let me. It's good enough that it's going to be reliable. I'm going to be the problem if there's a problem. That's basically what I'm trying to say. Is the bow is going to be pretty good all the time, and it's how much I practice with it. I just don't want to run into any equipment malfunctions or, something that's eating strings or a spongy back wall or trying to take off on me, something that I'm not comfortable with. And having had one before, this setup works for me, and I'm going to stick with it.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I was for my setup, I was shooting the budget bow, and I used the release that came with the budget bow, which is a complete. I am beginning to really actually develop a deep hate for that release because it's the cheap caliper release. I think it's just like a True Fire cheap caliper release or something, or a True Ball or something like that. I don't even know. It's like a $45 release, brand new. And I just can't execute a good shot with it. About half the time I can execute a proper shot. The rest of the time it's just a struggle. Like I can't really use back tension with it, and so it's just a challenge. I mean, it presents a whole nother challenge to shooting that bow. And when I grab my hinge, I just feel completely better and accurate. But that's not part of the budget challenge. So
this is the release you bought for the budget bow challenge.
This is the release that came with the budget bow that I have to use because it's part of the budget. And so, I'm not complaining here. I'm just saying it's it's a challenge to shoot accurately the way that I like to shoot with that release, because there's like a mile of trigger travel and it doesn't work for me. This release and me just don't get along. It's not like a short and sweet where you have a little bit of trigger travel, a little bit of creep in the trigger. This one has it. Just Anthony made a comment like 3 or 4 targets in. He's like, he was watching me shoot. He's like, man, that thing creeps. He almost watched me almost make a fist because of how much trigger creep there was.
That's what you're calling trigger creep?
Yeah, well, you can feel the trigger actually moving as you're pulling it.
So it's just not, you don't get
creeping before
you don't get tight on it and then it goes.
No. You literally pull the trigger for probably, I'd say, 1/8 of an inch.
I would almost make the argument that would make you a better shot in the long term.
It's so hard.
Instead of punching the trigger, you're really not going to have that.
You're fighting the urge with that to punch the trigger.
Well, you're also, if you're not sure when it's going to go off, which you're kind of not supposed to be when you're supposed to be applying an even pressure, right? The opposite of punching a trigger would be a nice, smooth pull, and the shot should surprise you theoretically, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what people talk about.
Yeah.
If that one's probably surprising you.
It's Well, sometimes. Well, a lot of problems is that sometimes it gets hung up right before it goes off, and you can literally feel the trigger get lighter, and then it's just another mental mind game that you have to play with because you're okay. You got to keep squeezing. Now you're like, it's like being on the edge of a hinge. It presents a ton of challenges of trying to execute a shot. Long story short, but used it the whole day. I had my hinge in my pocket. Didn't ever shoot my hinge until the end at a money dot, but which I should have just kept the wrist strap on. But long story short, happy with the way that I shot today. No, I can't say I'm happy. I shot 24 points below my goal, which I was wanting to break 400, which is an ambitious goal, using the 12, 10, 8, 5 point system. And there was 40 targets.
Yeah, 40 total.
40 targets, shot a 376. And so anybody else that shoots the Cascadian, if you're wanting to, tell everybody, you beat me. If you shot higher than 376, congratulations. you beat the crap out of my score. But for our group, that was a pretty good score. And Anthony even grabbed his target bow for half the course. His Realm X wasn't. I don't know what it just wasn't agreeing with him or something.
I don't know if he got frustrated and flustered and decided to switch bows in the middle of it. It was probably over already. But I don't know. What the final tally is, you beat second place by 60-plus points.
60 points.
60-plus points. You could have shot the dirt right in front of your feet, and you still would have won. So that's just to get an idea, Garrett.
Well, I didn't want to go over. Well, I guess since you brought it up, I didn't want to oh yeah, I did this and I did that, but I didn't shoot what I wanted myself to shoot, but I shot good enough to win in our group of 6 people.
Well, I don't know. You can get a pretty good idea of what an average score is between the type of shooter and the amount. We had a group of 6 and all different levels. And I probably practiced the least. Maybe was it Mike that said he hadn't touched his bow since
Mike and Jeremy don't shoot that much.
Okay. Well, I'm at the lower end, and I beat 2 of them, so I'm okay with that. It probably landed right where experience and most recent shooting.
Anthony
recent
and
practice.
tied.
Yeah, that's
at 316.
That's
Mike shot a
surprise.
309.
Aside from Anthony scoring where he did, I think and Shelby practices a lot more too. Maybe what I'm saying is completely wrong, but it almost seemed like a perfect representation of how much a person shoots, where they scored. But I think Shelby shoots a lot more than me. I probably should not have beat her. I think she was having other issues today. Had she not blanked a couple targets, she probably would. Yeah, she probably would have beat me.
Absolutely. She missed. She was frustrated. She didn't even want to talk about it. But I feel bad for her because she's way better of a shot than what she did today.
She normally stomps a mud hole right in my ass.
Yeah, like I said, for first 10 targets, I think she had the lead. Like, she was shooting really good. And
girl can shoot.
She can shoot. Yeah, she can shoot a bow. And so I mean. But I'm comparing to my score to guys that aren't shooting, so it's not like, oh wow, yeah, it's no, I'm practicing against guys that are out of the game that don't give a shit,
right?
Right. So I don't know what the average score was, but I know what I shot, and I know what the max score was, and I know if I would have competed, I would have got my ass kicked. So, a 420 would have been a good score if you were competing for that and wanted to be in like the top 6. 420 probably would have done it. Yeah. So I was 40 points behind that. You're 50 points behind that about. So, not really happy with it, but it is what it is. But I can honestly say that, I wanted to shoot and show that the budget bow could beat people and compete. I would have beat myself if I used my RX 1. I would have beat myself. I never really shot that bow very good. So, there's that, and I'm under my budget bow for freaking, I don't know how. I've already said this on the podcast a few times, but I was into that budget bow like $2,400. I'm into this bow $452.
I think that talking about different bows and stuff, I don't know if you can put a label on a bow as the end all be all greatest thing out there. I think as different as people shoot. I think that one person can grab a Hoyt and the other person can grab a Matthews that's 3 years older, and they can shoot them equally good. They can tie in scores. It just kind of depends on a lot of things. Find a bow that fits you. If you're one of those people that's cranking your, pulling your shot, twisting your wrist or whatever, and you have a bow tech blow up on you, maybe it's not because the bow has shallow cams.
Yeah, something
shallow
funky.
cam grooves. But people talk about that, but I for some people it's fine because they don't have that air and form or whatever. I don't know. It's probably person by person.
It's got to be by the shooter. You know, I mean, Anthony shoots or shot bows that I wouldn't shoot. I've shot bows I guarantee that he wouldn't shoot. You know, it's just all user preference, man. I mean, and that's why you had everybody out there using different bows. You had Dan, who was using the new Verdicts.
Yeah. Matthews.
And he was shooting good. He started off strong shooting with us. And, yeah, I mean, it's just everybody different strokes for different folks. But so overall, I guess I'm happy with how I shot. But never complacent, I guess, is what the best way to put it. We're never as good as we want to be. Maybe if you're Levi Morgan.
Well, I'm as good as I wanted to be today. I was better, probably. That's the standards. You maybe shouldn't. If you're not a full-time shooter, casual shooter, maybe you should keep yourself to a pretty low standard, and you might surprise yourself. But right. Just liking it has more to do with liking shooting, how much you're going to shoot and how good you're going to get, depending on how much you like it. And I like 3D shoots a lot. I could do that every day. I really could. I could do it if I had just a couple hours to go do half a course. And it was close enough. I'd go do it because it's a totally different thing than going to the range for me. Just being out there wearing a pack and carrying your bow around and multiple different shot situations and the different looks to them. It's good practice, and it's challenging and competitive and fun. There's nothing better than that.
So after today, after shooting and stuff, usually I find things I need to work on. What were some things that you know that were exposed in your setup or your gear and stuff?
Some of the arrows I was shooting today were pretty old. I mean, some of them maybe go back to 2 or 3 seasons ago.
One of them you had to junk. It was cracked.
Yeah, I found that out at the range pre-shoot, and it was my best flying arrow. I was trying to determine which arrow I was going to stick with most of the day, and it flew the best 65 yards. I was maybe 3 inches off bullseye.
The old two-veiner.
Yeah, and the one that was cracked, I spotted it and threw it right away immediately, and didn't want that thing blowing up on me and going through my thumb or something like that. So
I need to build you some new arrows.
I was on the fence about buying a brand new half dozen yesterday, and I was worried I wouldn't get to shoot them beforehand, so I stuck with what I had and what I'd been shooting, and I'm kind of regretting not having at least a brand new couple arrows today. But I found a 2 Fletcher that I was hanging on to that just happened to fly real true, real nice, and that was the arrow I used for more than half the course when I finally fought with 3 of them that would do different weird shit. They'd go flying left, right, up. I kept shooting low with one of them. I was like, what's going on here? What is going on? I almost moved my sight, but then I tried that arrow.
This is your first shoot with the Fast Eddie XL3 pin.
That's right.
What'd you think after finally shooting a dial?
I'm not. If I can remember to change the range, and that never gets me, I'm never going back.
Really?
No way. No way. It's just too nice. It's too nice not to have to split and stack pins. It's just.
It's almost not even fair.
No, it's just being able to remember to do that with an elk bearing down on you. It worries me a little bit, but I think these 3D shoots help with that. All the shot process preparation you get, and there were times today that I was doing things in an order, and I would set my range after knocking an arrow, and then one time I get ready to shoot, and I knock.
I'm getting ready to take a picture of you.
I set my range before knocking an arrow, and I grab it with my release, and I'm getting ready to draw back, and then I'm like, oh, I don't have an arrow knocked. Okay, so maybe pay attention to both things instead of just like going, step by step, because I was ready to, after setting my sight, I was grabbing my D-loop with my release every time, and then one of those times the arrow wasn't there, and I would never probably draw it back without an arrow. I would catch that because part of that process is making sure the arrow's in the rest, and the forks come up and it's there. But just stuff like that, I don't want to be panicking for in an elk hunting situation and forget to do something like that. Sometimes I wonder post shot if I ever lined my housing up with my peep or if I leveled my bow out. I always look at that stuff before I shoot, but then I can't remember if I did it. Usually the shot will tell me.
Well, the Fast Eddie that you're using is one that's been on my bow for a while. Did it have the 3rd pointer on there?
No.
Oh, okay, so it doesn't have the third pointer. So the one at home does.
Yeah.
And it's just, for me, it's been a great sight. I mean, I'd buy a dozen of those things if I could. I'm actually using the regular Fast Eddy, which I found out is the newer version. So I did get a good deal on it. And it's nice not having to deal with all the third axis and not having to adjust it or anything, because I was kind of worried because I hadn't tested my third axis with this sight yet, and too much. And it was all good. It was all in line. The only problem that I found that was exposed on my setup was on the 80-yard downhill. I ranged it for 74. Everybody else's rangefinders said 74 because the adjusted range would have been 74 because it was steep downhill. So I was like, okay, cool. So for whatever reason, I felt like I made a great shot, and I'm like a foot and a half high, or a foot high on a buffalo. So I'm like barely, I think it was an 8, barely an 8. And I'm like, okay, something happened there. Could have been me. But I aimed, compensated low for how high I hit, and I hit the 12. I'm like, and they're both perfectly in line. So there's something going on there that really is, I don't get frustrated, but I get a little annoyed when obviously something's going on and I don't know what it is.
And you're pointing towards your rangefinder.
I'm pointing towards my rangefinder. However, everybody else's rangefinder said 74 as well. But I also have heard that when you start getting out at farther distances with rangefinders, the computing isn't as accurate. So like, there's that blacktail that I had you help me come get that velvet blacktail at one time.
Yeah.
And you remember when I was shooting low, I already had an arrow in this blacktail and he's bedded, and I'm just going to put another one in him rather than stock up on him to potentially bust him with an arrow already in him. I'm like, I'm just going to shoot him from like 90 or it was like 100 yards or something like that. And I'm just going to end it. Well, range it, take my time, have all the time in the world. He's not going anywhere, but he can, he knows I'm there. He's bedded down. He's hurting. And anyways, I put like 2 arrows right next to each other, right below him. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? And then, long story short, turns out that rangefinders aren't always accurate at longer angle adjustments. And I'm thinking maybe the rangefinders we were using today are in that pool, and that it was probably like a 70-yard cut. So 80 to 70, you would have cut 10 yards off that, which makes sense.
Yeah, for what it really does at a 40-yard, your rangefinder compensates a real steep 40-yard shot by about 4 yards or something.
Yeah,
right? I mean,
it's good. It's accurate, but I'm finding that the farther I shoot at downhills and uphills, the less accurate it is. So, because I trusted myself on the shot, it felt great when it broke. The pin everything was great on the shot, and I'm just like, okay, I know that's not where my pin was. I was aligned. Everything was good. Grip was good. And then I proved it by hitting that second shot right in the bullseye. I'm like, okay, there's something going on here. So I might be investing in a new rangefinder. I'm going to be buying a new rangefinder. After that target, I'm buying a new rangefinder. I mean, immediately after I grabbed that arrow out of that bullseye, I'm like, okay, this is stupid. Like, if that happened on an elk or a deer or a bear, I'd be so mad, so angry. So, and that's just, that's probably something I need to do as a shooter, is shoot maybe more without a rangefinder up and downhill, or just range it and then make the yardage corrections in my head myself. Maybe that's an area that I can, that I can improve on, that I'm exposed, and I'm relying too much on my rangefinder.
That's why 3D shoots are so beneficial.
They're so valuable.
Because you're not going to do that at a range where everything's nice and flat. You're just walking back and forth, shooting the same 80-yard target all day. By the end of the day, you're going to be shooting better than you started, without a doubt. But then you get out there and you get a steep downhill like that, and something weird happens. It's like, okay, got to figure this out, because what if that were? I mean, that's a little far for an elk. I'm going to say that, but when it matters, when it counts, if that happens, that's not a good shot. It's not an ethical shot at all.
Right.
That's. That you might get lucky and spine shot him, but
I know that Aaron Snyder's done a little bit of research, I believe, in this area with the rangefinders and stuff, and is fairly knowledgeable, and he's talked about it on his podcast. So I might have to pick his brain on what rangefinder he found was angle adjusting it longer, like 100 yards, accurately, because it's getting to the point where the capability of the rangefinder is now my weak point in the chain for those longer adjustable shots. And me as a shooter, you can figure it out without a rangefinder, but I need to learn and get better in that area. So
well, why don't you ask your subscribers?
Why
don't you open it up? If anybody knows anything, and you probably could Google something like that. And
I can learn it on my own. But yeah, if anybody has any tips, I know I'd be happy to hear them. I'm always happy to learn. If any of you guys are a little bit more up on your angle adjustments, or your rangefinder is working perfectly on angle adjustments at longer ranges, let me know what model, and I'll start, maybe putting a little list together or a little research together to help pick out what I think would be the best archery rangefinder out there, because I'm going to be buying a nice one here soon. Really looking heavy into the SIG kilos, but I'm skeptical of the adjustments on the longer ranges as well, because those rangefinders said the exact same thing as my Bushnell did, and I don't think anybody shot accurately on that buffalo target. Nobody did.
Nope. It was missed a couple times, I think.
It was, but I don't blame that on the rangefinder, but I believe that the guys that executed a good shot high, or unless they dialed wrong or whatever. But and Shelby doesn't even have a 70 pin. She was having to use her 60 to shoot that. So I think she hit it in the leg. I forget where she hit it. Anyway, she at least she hit it. But so yeah, I mean that's why we shoot these 3D shoots, man.
they were a world of help, And going back to equipment, your rangefinder is probably just not going to develop a problem that didn't have already. It's just going to be the way it is, no matter what. But things change, and there's always flyer arrows, and you're stuck pounding your head trying to figure out what it is. Why did that happen? It could have been me, could have been your form, whatever. Even if it's just like putting a little added pressure, like a point system on your shot, just to make sure that gives you something to practice for too. Even going to a 3-day shoot on the weekend might make you spend Friday at the range, and it's like double whammy. There you go. There's even more practice. It's just making that. It also, here's what it doesn't do. It doesn't make waiting on elk season any easier. It sure gets you thinking about it nonstop, and it makes for a pretty long summer and a lot of anticipation and build-up for elk season or deer season or bow season. We'll just say bow season. But for me, it's elk. And
are you going to try and kill a turkey this year?
I probably will kill a turkey without trying that hard.
Oh yeah, you got the ranch out there, don't you?
They're everywhere, dude.
That's fun.
They're like deer.
We should actually not just like walk up and shoot one, but actually try and call one in and do the whole thing. We
don't gotta go crazy, and
we don't have to go crazy, but it'd be cool to like get one to like, I almost said bugle, but to gobble and come in after. I have the calls. I got the little scratch call, the circular one.
If you have that, that's great. But we're not buying any of that crap. You can probably do it with an elk reed.
Yeah. But I got the actual turkey
sound.
call that you scrape with the pen thing, and I sound like an idiot. I know nothing about turkey hunting.
I don't think you have to. I don't even know what a big tom looks like. I know the big ones when you see them.
I've talked to guys on the East Coast, and apparently turkeys are like elk, where the jakes are like satellite bulls. The older toms have their harem or herds or whatever. What are you looking at?
If you move your arm, I can see my mirror.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you.
And the similarities between the two with the language and the dynamics is really similar to elk. So I think we can learn it fairly easily. However, I believe they can see in color, and I believe they have way better eyes, and so they present their own challenge there. But
it could be that way there. Maybe here they're just not. We don't have that.
Well,
they're
just not smart around here. They're a nuisance animal around here. But those guys over on the east side take that stuff super seriously. Like, they live for turkey hunting. So maybe they would appreciate a turkey hunting video, because we have a subspecies just like our Columbia whitetail deer. We basically have a Columbian version of a turkey. It's not a full-size regular turkey. Our turkeys aren't full size over here. I didn't know if you knew that or not.
No, I know that you buy the Thanksgiving turkeys. They're quite a bit bigger.
Yeah. Well, these ones are like a subspecies, from what I understand, a subspecies of a full size turkey. Like, I don't even know which one. Maybe a Miriam, but they're like our Columbia white. They're like a smaller turkey. So there's that too.
But anything that you can legally shoot at with a bow, and you can get a tag for, and you can go out and like put a day in trying to kill one. Like, I'm on board with that. That's fun, man. Like, that's why it's as fun to me as it's not as fun as deer hunting, I wouldn't say, but like, hell yeah, let's go try and kill one of those fucking things. Let's do it.
Yeah. We've got the properties we can go do it on. We've got the opportunities. It's just bear season's at that same time, and I don't want to commit time to turkeys when I could be out chasing bears, because that's actually a priority for me. But you know, I'm not going to kill a turkey for the content because I need the content or anything, but it would be cool to get the experience and try to understand why it's such a big deal for folks that really get into the turkey hunting. It'd be nice to just get into it and try it, you know, and expand my horizons for hunting, especially for bow hunting. I love things like elk hunting where you can call them in, interact with them, see the way they, you know, and that sounds like turkey hunting. So I'm going to give that a go this year, and maybe you can film me and I can film you and get a couple shots on film.
Yeah, I'm down. That would be fun. That would be fun. You know, I've killed a couple, and I mean, you've probably killed a couple with your bow too, right?
No,
Turkeys?
I've never killed a turkey.
I killed one with my traditional last year.
Did you?
Yeah, but it wasn't. You know, they were just there, and I had my trad, and like I had a sports pack, so I said, "Hey, all right, yeah, you know."
It's like a front yard turkey, basically.
Yeah, basically, it was like, oh, I guess if they're standing there, I'll. And I had my compound too.
You killed one with a trad bow?
I did. I took my target tip off of it. They stood right there and watched me thread a broadhead on, walked out there, missed, shot, and they moved like 30 yards maybe.
Huh.
And I just walked over, picked up my arrow, and tried it again. And I took one's head about clean off.
You should have took a picture.
I don't think I did.
I mean, it's not like, oh, wow, look what I did. But with anything's impressive with a trad bow to me.
That's the only thing I've ever killed with it.
Really?
Yep. And I've shot at a lot of rock chucks and ground squirrels.
I don't think Anthony's killed anything besides a grouse with his trad bow.
Well, that's pretty impressive.
Not even a turkey. Yeah, it was like a freaking 30-yard shot on the grouse too.
Yeah. You know, it's the only one. Well, I recovered one other one with my compound. Same place, same situation. Oh, hey, take my target tips off and put a broadhead on. It was the year prior to that. But
really,
you know, in the past I've shot them, and you know, it's weird how hard they are to kill. You know, they just don't even stop. You get your arrow back, and it's on the other side of them, complete total pass through, and full covered in blood, and they're just gone. They're not really that easy to track. You know, fowl doesn't bleed as much as game does.
Right?
You know?
No, not near as much. It'd be fun to try and get a couple buddies into bow hunting, like RJ, like turkeys.
Yeah.
Nothing serious, nothing too committal. It's easier. It's lighthearted. You know, it's still an animal. It's still to make an ethical shot and everything, but it just doesn't. There's not much skin in the game. You know, it doesn't take a huge investment. It doesn't take a bunch of time. At least where we live.
Yeah.
You know, I know this may sound weird, you know, for you guys over in like Michigan or Pennsylvania, where it's like a challenge, but over here it's like we said, it's like a front yard turkey. Yeah. Front yard turkey.
Yeah, you know, I have hit one in a loaded log truck. That has happened. It almost came inside the cab with me. Yeah, it crushed the window, and it totally broke out one of the panes of the windshield.
Holy smokes!
Yeah, that was. I got that one. I could put that one on the list. I guess I was only going about 55 miles an hour.
55 on a log truck. Yeah,
and then I've had to avoid near miss hitting turkeys midair and some on the ground, and several other occasions. It's just it's almost a challenge not to kill them.
Yeah. Well, if anybody wants to come into the best turkey hunting spot in Oregon, come down to Roseburg, Oregon.
You know,
They're everywhere.
I've heard that Douglas County is like turkey.
Just knock on somebody's door, and if you say, hey, I'm shooting turkeys, not deer or anything, they'll probably let you on.
I have them in my front yard in town.
Town, really?
This morning I had the 3 toms and like 6 hens.
3? Wow. Those ones aren't legal, though.
At the end of the driveway, and I didn't think they were going to get out of the way when I was backing up. It was this morning. I could have killed them with a rock. I could have probably got them with a kitchen knife, not even exaggerating. They weren't really that worried about me. But so that's this kind of thing. You know, how exciting is it to get out there and kill a turkey?
That's the thing, is like I want something that I have to work for that's a challenge. And I think if we went after like a ranch turkey, not like a front yard turkey, but a legitimate turkey that maybe gets pressured, or you know, has a real legitimate source of predators around where it has to keep them on edge.
Right.
That would be a better representation of what we're trying to do. Doing it on public land around here, good luck. That would be. I don't even know where you would go for public land turkeys. Most of them are on private.
Yeah, for the most part,
I'd say 95% of the turkeys around here are on private.
Yeah, or in town.
or in town, yeah. Pooping on people's plants and gardens and trees and cars. Maybe a public land turkey would be a challenge. I mean, I've seen some when I'm out hunting, but usually it's just like one like hen or jake, and they're hauling butt.
Yeah, they don't predominantly hang out in like you get up there in public land and in wooded areas and remote stuff. That's where I think the predators are.
Yeah,
that's why they're down hanging out with us. We don't. They like to raid people's yards and poop on everything and just kind of come and go. And they're not that worried about people, but they don't seem to like being out in the woods. That's for sure.
So for more 3D shoots, is there anything coming up that you know of?
I grabbed a shoot card.
You did grab a shoot card,
didn't you? A couple of them. They're in my pack, though, and that's in the back of the truck.
Well, I did get some messages from guys that were wanting to talk about, 3D shoot scoring, because some of the listeners haven't shot 3D ever, and I'm probably the wrong guy to talk about this, but the scoring that we were using today was 12, 10, 8, 5, 0 if you missed. And so usually there's a circle, and then there's a tiny smaller circle, usually about the size of a quarter, depending on anywhere from a quarter to a chew can size.
Yeah.
Depending on the size of the target. That's usually your 12. Then there's a circle outside of that one. That's usually a 10. And then there's a cutout of like the lungs.
A vital area.
Lines, vital area. That would be an 8. Anything in the body is a 5. And then some places, if you hit it in the hoof or the horns, it's a 0.
Yeah. What do they call it? They got a word for that or a term for that, right?
Yeah, they have a term for it. Like I said, I'm probably the wrong guy. Probably should get Brian Del Calo back on here to talk about scoring systems. But that's the way that we were scoring today. And I like to average a 10. I know that's seceding 2 points every target, which sucks. If you're really good, that's horrible, missing the 12. But for a guy that wants to shoot accurately and be inside the vitals easily, a 10 is usually a really good shot.
Yeah, well, part of the problem when it comes to these 3D shoots is kind of
where the vitals are located.
Well, it's the visibility. You can bring a pair of binoculars with you, but there's not like a little red or orange sticker on the 12 ring at all. There was one target that was like that, but it was a controversial target, but we won't get into that. But you kind of have to define the lines through an optic of some kind, and then when you take your shot, kind of go off of memory of what you could see, because a lot of these are black or dark colored. Some of them are javelinas and bear and whatever, and it's just a literal etched out, notched out circle that you can't see with your naked eye. So you're just kind of going off reference. Sometimes you can see the vial cut out and you kind of know where it's supposed to be.
Right.
But you don't really have a target. You're not aiming at one spot. You're just kind of right where you just looked at it, right?
Well, some of these vitals are not anatomically correct.
No.
Not even close. A lot of these targets, they're like in the shoulder blade, you were hitting a 12.
Yeah.
Like that wolf, that Anthony's like, oh, he was celebrating it. I'm like, dude, you're to the left. And then I shot, and he started making fun of me. Walk up there, and I'm in the 12. He's in like an 8. So I'm like, and his shot anatomically was way better than mine. But the 12 was in the freaking shoulder blade.
Yeah.
Even when I made the shot, I'm like, crap, that was probably a little too far in the shoulder blade, but it was right in there. It was right on the ring. But,
I never killed a wolf, so I don't know.
Yeah, it would have killed a wolf. And there was actually a couple targets on this shoot. And Cascadian Bowmen, or Poodle Creek, whatever you want to call it, is actually nationally ranked. I think it's in the top 20 for archery ranges in the nation.
They got a good thing going on out there.
They do. They got a good thing, good people running it, Money Dot. It's part of the Outlaw for the Safari shoot. It's a 2-day shoot. So I think it's part of the Outlaw Archer thing that they got, which I know Carl and Brian Del Calo are shooting in that thing, but which they're both killing it right now in Outlaw. Shout out to them. But yeah, so it's like 40 targets usually as a shoot, and yeah, if you can break a 400, I'd say that's really good.
Well, out of a possible 460.
Yeah, out of a possible
480.
480, yeah.
480. Now,
I'd say that's pretty good.
That is pretty good.
Not good enough to win it.
480 is a 12 ring every time, every 40 shots, every one of them. That'd be pretty impressive. I don't know that.
Well, you got some 12s, that are 40 yards, 30 yards, that are about the size of a quarter.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
That's pretty darn
exceeds
impressive.
my standards for elk hunting ready, completely. That's a different thing completely. You know, at least just keep it fun, make it fun, and it's easy to stay interested in practicing. And that it's just something to kill the time until it's time to hunt. And you know, at the end of it, you're a better shot than if you didn't go. Putting a little pressure on, making it a competition. You know, but in shoots past, we've put something on the line like lunch or something like that.
Froyo.
Yeah, it was always Froyo. That was a range
That's
thing.
what it was,
you know,
Froyo.
You know, loser. It would come down to a game of pig or horse, or sometimes
longest shot or best shot at 100 or whatever.
Sometimes just one long shot. And, I've bought a few Froyos. Let's just put it that way.
I bought a few Froyos.
Yeah, a few less than me. But
and I'm glad we quit shooting for score when we did, because we finished the course and we went and shot like 100, or no, it was 80. I was like a basketball-sized group. It was like, what the heck is going on here? But I picked up my hinge, shot the money dot, didn't hit the money dot, and then put my wrist strap back on, and I was all sorts of screwed up. But yeah, I don't know what was going on with that. I think it's just making that transition, which I can shoot accurately, but something's going on. I'm doing something as a shooter to make it shoot that bad, because I think it was just not shooting my hinge as much as I'm used to was probably the problem.
Oh, I think.
But well, let's go ahead and wrap this thing up. I had a great time at today's shoot, man, and we're going to have to hit a couple more. I know Hoodoo's coming up end of May, and if you haven't already and you want to go to that, be sure to register now. Northwest Mountain Challenge. I don't get any money for this. I'm going to give them a shout-out. Northwest Mountain Challenge at Hoodoo. Best shoot I've ever gone to. Most fun at a shoot I've ever gone to. I remember the first year I went there, it was by myself, and like I literally go through the lodge at the front doors, and then I start hearing this music, and I get closer and closer to the back doors. The music's getting louder, and then I open it, and there's laughing, there's music, there's booths, there's people everywhere, there's food. It was like a big freaking party going on just behind the back of the lodge. And that's where everything happens. That's where you get to meet everybody, the born and raised guys, pure elevation guys. Shooting the Bull was there last year. You had BHA. You had just a bunch of. You had the backcountry, or not backcountry. It was the wilderness. What's that pre-made meal I had you eat on our mule deer hunt this year?
Pre-made meal. It wasn't like Mountain House or something.
No. It's like a Mountain House, but it's not.
No, I forget.
Oh, long story short, I'm forgetting his name. And then there's a coffee company there. It was so cool, and everybody's just hanging out, talking archery, talking bow hunting, drinking beer, having fun. People are off shooting bows up on top. They're throwing these discs up in the air, shooting them with trad bows with flu arrows. There's a 100-yard Sasquatch right next to that. Dude, it's so cool. It's like a party. Yeah. And that was like 2 days long. This year it starts on a Friday, I think. Yeah, it starts on a Friday. I'll be setting up there Thursday night. And if you guys can, don't miss that. Even if you're shooting it for just one day. There's a glow stick, glow-in-the-dark shoot where they have nocturnals. And it's one of the coolest things, seeing hundreds of arrows going back and forth across this ridge, like this little gully. And just seeing like hundreds of arrows in the air at the same time when the shoot starts. I can't even describe it. It's so freaking cool. So if you're thinking about going to that, just do yourself a favor, shoot it, come say hi, and check out all the booths. It's pretty cool. And if that's your first 3D shoot, you're going to treat yourself and start yourself off on the right foot. I will say the pure elevation course is a butt kicker. And it's not just a pure elevation. No, you are climbing. It is physically demanding. Bring extra arrows.
Yeah.
I personally have never shot it, but I've talked to some of my buddies that have, because I've been busy in the booth, and even they will come back with one or two less arrows. I mean, it's a butt kicker.
Hoodoo is probably going to happen for this year. The problem with that is I wanted to go the last 2 years, and then it sneaks up on you. I don't know what it is about summertime and just everything getting busy. And then, oh, wait, that's this weekend? Oh, yeah. Man. But these shoots are a kick in the ass, 100%. And the people that you'll run into Couldn't be nicer.
Cool people, the people that you see on TV, you know, like the Born and Raised guys.
Bow hunters, period.
Yeah.
People that are out there for an added level of difficulty in a really, really honorable sport. I think it's like it takes a class of person that's not everybody. It's like when we're out there in our elk hunting area, and I want to leave the truck unlocked all the time, and you're always like, what are you doing? I'm like, this is bow season in the elk woods.
Yeah.
And anybody out here that's hunting elk aren't that kind of person. You know, it's not your regular Joe in town. You know, this isn't Walmart parking lot. These people are out here, and they've added a level of difficulty to it, a challenge to a sport that already is,
right.
I think is just super, super honorable. You don't have to worry about these people. I mean, there could be your occasional.
There's always got to be one guy, you know, that one.
I just don't think that the kind of person that's out to get something for nothing is
right.
out there bow hunting, and that's just the way I see it. So I have a lot of faith in people that, you know, that are interested in pursuing a difficult challenge like putting
right.
down an elk or even a mule deer. But
well, you're also going to have G4 Archery, I think, is going to have a booth, which I'm excited to meet those guys and shoot some of those bows, and maybe I can do some reviews while I'm there. I should give those guys a call and just see if they want to be on the podcast or something. And then also Chris Dunlap from Elk River, who does all the footers and arrow building and stuff. He's going to have a booth. So I guarantee you him and I are going to get together there and film something or record something. And hell, you know, maybe somebody that stops by the booth at the right time can get on the show. I don't know. It'd be cool. It'd be cool to have people actually meet you for the first time. They've met Anthony and Shelby at shoots. You know, they have people come up to them at shoots now every once in a while. And then,
oh, really?
And, I know Anthony does. Maybe not Shelby, but I know Anthony does. And it'd just be cool to have, you know, the listeners, whoever listens or watches the YouTube channel or whatever, be able to meet, you know, the other part of our hunting party. So it'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, it's going to be cool, man. I am pumped. And I know last year we had cold beer on ice for folks that wanted to come out and hang out. So it's not going to be a dry booth by any means. I know the Shooting the Bull guys had way more than enough beer for themselves, and they were having a good time. So, but yeah, I hope they come back because I don't get to see those guys near often, and they're some of the funniest human beings I've ever met. Josh and Ty are awesome. But all right, guys. Well, that's this episode of the podcast, and as always, we'll see you on the next one. And thanks for tuning in. Bye. All right, guys, that's this episode of the podcast, and thanks, Mitch, for coming back on the show. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and be really curious to hear what kind of things from shooting 3D this year, if you've shot 3D, that have you decided that you need to work on, you need to get better, or areas in your setup that were maybe messed up, the tuning was wrong, like a third axis or something like that, and just be really cool to see these things that you guys are fixing before season. And I say before season, bear season is literally less than a week away. It starts next Monday. And so some guys are going to be out there hitting the woods next Monday in Oregon for bears. Turkey starts, I think, next Monday as well. So season is here for the guys that are spring hunting. And it's definitely nice to get that little extra confidence booster in there before you start hitting the woods. So as always, guys, appreciate everybody listening. If you haven't yet, leave a review on iTunes or Podbean or whatever platform you're listening to this on. Be happy to have your review. Reviews definitely do help the show get found and makes it more easier to find for newer listeners and stuff like that. And if you have, if you really want to support the show monetarily, you can become a patron. And what patrons do is basically they kind of sponsor the show, for lack of better terms. They just give the show a small amount of money, whether it's $1 or $5, $10. And, if they feel like they're getting enough out of it, they want to invest in the show to help the show grow. That's a great way to do it. And it's patreon.com/onpointpodcast. And I have exclusive giveaways for the patrons. And just really try and go above and beyond for the folks that really go farther than everybody else that listens to the show. And I appreciate all the listeners, but the ones that are patrons are definitely the ones that are getting more out of the show. They get their questions answered on the show. They can steer the conversation. Obviously, the giveaways are better. and just really helps the show grow, and I really appreciate everybody's support on there. So as always, guys, thanks for listening. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.